The phone rang. It was 3:17 p.m., just like yesterday and the day before that. For the past 3 weeks, my life has been punctuated by this single jarring event. An anonymous call, always at the same time, from a number that never shows up on my screen. Just unknown caller. At first, I thought it was a simple wrong number, a telemarketer with a faulty auto dealer. I'd answer, say hello, and be met with absolute silence. Not the faint hiss of an open line or the distant murmur of a call center. Just a profound, dead quiet. It felt like holding a seashell to your ear and hearing nothing, not even the ghost of the ocean. After a few seconds, I'd hang up, annoyed but untroubled. By the 4th day, the annoyance had started to curdle into a strange sort of curiosity. Who was it? Why call at the same time every single day and say nothing? I started experimenting. One day, I didn't say hello. I just picked up and listened. A silence was there, waiting. It felt heavy, expectant, as if the person on the other end was listening to me, listening to my own breathing. I held my breath, and the silence seemed to deepen, becoming almost a physical presence in the room. I hung up, my heart thumping a little faster than usual. The next week, I let it ring. 5 rings, 10, 15. The shrill sound seemed to mock the quiet of my empty apartment. It finally stopped, and the silence that followed was somehow worse. It felt like a question had been left hanging in the air. The anticipation for the next day's call began to consume my afternoons. I'd find myself staring at the clock, watching the minutes tick by from 3 p.m. onwards. The world outside my window, the traffic, the kids playing in the park, it all seemed to fade away. My entire reality was shrinking, focusing down to a single point. 3:17 p.m., I live alone. It's been that way for a while now. The days are long and often bleed into one another. You'd think I'd hate the interruption, but a twisted part of me began to rely on it. It was a routine, a connection, however bizarre and one-sided. This silent caller was the most consistent thing in my life. I started to build a narrative around them. Maybe it was someone I once knew, trying to reach out but unable to speak. Maybe it was a warning. My imagination ran wild, painting scenarios that were increasingly unsettling. The loneliness, you see, it plays tricks on you. It makes you crave any form of contact, even one that feels like a threat. I started talking to the silence. I'd pick up the phone and just talk. I told it about my day. I complained about my job. I confessed my fears. I poured out all the words I'd kept bottled up inside. And the silence just listened. It was the most patient, non-judgmental audience I'd ever had. It never interrupted, never offered advice. It just was. This became our ritual, my daily confession to the void. I'd feel a sense of relief afterwards, a strange catharsis. But as the days turned into weeks, a new feeling began to creep in. Fear. The silence was no longer passive. It felt like it was absorbing me, learning me. I'd hear echoes of it even when the phone wasn't ringing. In the quiet moments before sleep, I'd feel that same heavy, expectant presence in my room. I'd turn on the lights, check the locks, but there was never anyone there. It was a soundless haunting. One day, I decided I'd had enough. My nerves were frayed. I was jumping at every little noise. I needed it to stop. So at 3:16 p.m., I turned my phone off. I sat there, watching it, a dark, inert rectangle on the coffee table. When the clock ticked over to 3:17, nothing happened. The apartment was quiet. A normal, peaceful quiet. For a moment, I felt a wave of triumph. I had beaten it. But the silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was empty, hollow. I had cut off my only connection. The rest of the afternoon stretched before me, a vast, featureless desert of time. I felt more alone than ever before. The absence of the call was a louder silence than the call itself. I had grown dependent on my ghost, I had become addicted to the fear. The next day, I turned my phone back on. I needed the call. I waited, my hands trembling. 3:15, 3:16. My heart pounded against my ribs. 3:17, silence, no ring. 3:18, 3:19, nothing. The phone remained dark and quiet. She, asterisk at asterisk, had left me. The routine was broken. I felt a surge of panic, a desperate, clawing loneliness that was sharper and more painful than anything I had felt before. Why had they stopped? Was it because I had rejected them? For the next week, I was a wreck. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I'd stare at my phone, willing it to ring. I checked my call logs compulsively, and that's when I saw it. I scrolled back through the weeks, through all the days I had received the call. The log was there. An entry for every single day at 3:17 p.m. Incoming call. But where the number should have been, there was nothing. Not unknown, not private, just a blank space, a perfect empty void in the data. I kept scrolling back, past the first day of the silent calls. And then my blood ran cold. The calls didn't start 3 weeks ago. They went back months, every single day. 3:17 p.m., an incoming call from a blank space. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. I hadn't been getting these calls for months. I would have remembered. I would have, wouldn't I? Then I looked at the call durations. Most were short, just a few seconds, from the days I hung up quickly. But then there were the longer ones, the ones that lasted minutes. 10 minutes, 20. One was almost an hour long. These were the days I had talked to the silence. But there was something else. Scattered amongst my answered calls were others, all at 3:17 p.m., with a duration of 0 seconds. Missed calls. I frantically searched my memory. When were these missed calls? I remembered a few weeks ago. I'd been at a doctor's appointment. The day I'd gone to the movies with a friend. The day my sister had visited. Days I hadn't been alone. Days I had been occupied, happy, connected to other people. On those days, I hadn't heard the phone ring at all. The realization hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. The phone wasn't ringing. It had never been ringing. I was the only one who heard it. The calls, the silence, the expectant presence. It was all coming from inside my own head. A phantom limb of communication. A symptom of a loneliness so profound it had created its own companion. The calls stopped when I turned off the phone, not because the caller couldn't get through, but because I had decided to stop the ritual. They didn't return because my panic and despair over their absence was a new, louder noise in my head. The silence hadn't abandoned me. The silence asterisk was asterisk me. I'm looking at my phone now. It's almost 3:17 p.m. The apartment is quiet. But it's not an empty quiet anymore. It's a waiting quiet. I don't know if I'll hear the ring today. Part of me hopes I don't, but another, much larger part of me is desperate to hear it. Because if the phone doesn't ring, if the silence doesn't call me, I'm afraid it means there's no one left inside to even pick up.